Empath Tourist, a tribute to Billy Collins by Victoria Munoz. If you've ever been to a reading given by Billy Collins, you might recognize some of these quotes and ideas in this fun comic book page about a book, the trouble with poetry, and America's poet. There's something about listening to live poetry, especially from a renowned poet such as you, Billy. Little did you know a simple handshake would no sooner send one more suddenly through a portal of snippets of collected memory than a cookie nibbled by a Connecticut poet. Comic book superhero, rogue, or Jean Grey absorb a brief memory, emotion, or communication in an instant through human touch, the character John Coffey from Stephen King's Green Mile passing on electric energy to the prison guard. Like a scrapbook of you, I hold now in my hand the energy of that moment as if it were a magic orb. New book under arm. It was a previous conversation at an after-party over wine and cheese at a museum, your very kind letter declining my invitation to feature at a local poetry reading, a mention of you at a university reception by your late friend Frank McCourt while your wives were vacationing in Tuscany. Meanwhile, in a conversation with this poem, the poem suggests it wants to be a sonnet. I remark, but I don't want to start all over. The poem agrees. I continue from where I left off. Your distinguished voice on radio shows, other Connecticut readings, Sunken Garden, Stamford High School, and R.J. Julia's My Introduction to You. You were introduced as the rock star of poetry. The poem I wrote that day at a nearby cafe while you dined with directors in the adjacent eatery referenced Valery, a favorite French poet of yours. A poem is never finished, but only abandoned, was your quote from him. And most recently, Billy Collins live streaming. The trouble with poetry. It's constant. I'm only sorry I have abandoned this poem for so long. Yes, Billy, a handshake from you, America's poet, for an instant, a fleeting moment, zap, bringing all this back to me, scraps of recollection, a tourist, an empath. I'm giddy, still, focused, energized, levitating. New book under arm, a superhero, making my getaway is 2 posters from the hall entrance reading, Billy Collins reading this way, fly into the new book you signed. I walk out into the night, flap, flap, whoosh. On the bottom of the page, you will see renderings of Billy Collins and his wife, Susanna, who is also his producer for the live show that has been streaming during this COVID time. Together they make an amazing team. You can often hear him saying under his breath, world poetry domination, which in fact they do have a map pinpointing people from all over the world who have tuned in to listen to him. She thinks, I think we need more ice. And you read that beautifully. He says, Susanna, how about if I read from Poetry 180 today? Then favorites from the Owl. Oh, and some Billy Collins. Then send them off with some Sonny Rollins, Miles, Hank Mobley, because you see, Billy Collins is quite the jazz fan. She says, sounds good. Yes, how about some Billy Collins poems? Don't forget Poetry Jukebox Friday. Everybody liked that last one. Could you repeat that poem, Professor Bebop? Thank you. Thank you so much for all your poetry, Billy Collins. and all you do.